Hey, welcome everyone to Aerospace Live for Thursday, February 18th, 2021. Now, my name is Bob Roberts, and I'm with the United States Air Force Auxiliary Civil Air Patrol. Now, with the light at the end of the tunnel starting to sneak a peek and the hopes that we are going to start getting back into aviation into the right direction, I wanted to focus tonight's show on flight training. Now, to help us, we have a special guest who's made his living out of flight training. Now, he's a CFI out of Florida near Orlando, and he brings a great balance of keeping the instruction fun and engaging while ensuring the students' learning stays the center focus. Now, he also has a great YouTube channel called LewDix Aviation, and I'm going to throw a link to that down below. Now, before we get started, if you are interested in learning more about Civil Air Patrol and are between the ages of 12 and 112, you can go visit civilairpatrol.com, or you can leave me a message and I'll get you pointed in the right direction. Hey, so with no more delay, let's go ahead and welcome Lewis Dixon. Hey, Lou, thanks so much for joining us.
Hello, Bob. Thanks for having me on. Absolute pleasure.
Awesome. Hey, so at this point, audience, we're going to see a cool thing. You're going to see this face for the next 10 minutes, and Lou's going to go away. And that's because I messed up.
Everybody give a round of applause for Bob.
I'm going to do a pity clap for myself.
Can't work the audio.
I'm going to do a pity clap for myself. So I promise you, if you stay with this video, you're going to, you're the other way. You're going to see Lou in about 10 minutes.
Oh, I'm the wrong way.
All right. With that, it's going to seem seamlessly like we're going to go into the first question.
There we go.
And so COVID's been crazy, right? We're now about a year, I think, into it.
Yep.
So
COVID cost me my airline job.
Oh, no. Were you a furloughed pilot?
Yeah. I was a first officer with a regional in here in Orlando.
Okay.
And yeah, that got me furloughed. So
is the airline still around, or did it go out of business?
Airline's still going. There's talk of them recalling pilots pretty soon, but they've closed the base in Orlando, which changes things for me. Which, I mean, we'll get into what I do as a daily now in a little bit, but the situation now is that it wouldn't allow me to keep doing that. So yeah.
Now, just curious. It's not to jump ahead, but just out of curiosity. So I talk to so many pilots, as you can imagine, that have gone through what you've gone through, and I'm sorry that you've had to go through what you've gone through. But would you be willing to relocate to a new base or traveling to a new base, or? So
that's the issue. That's the issue. The airline that I was with, or I am furloughed with, if I can even say that. They allowed me to continue instructing on the side as long as I was reporting hours and, inside the Part 117 stuff. And that was what kept my YouTube channel going as I was still at the airline. And that's what I wanted to do. That's the whole reason that I chose the particular airline. And now that they closed the Orlando base, I would have to commute down to near Miami. Which isn't that long of a commute, but still it takes away my time from editing, from my time from flying with students and stuff like that. Because when I was doing it, I couldn't keep very many students. I think I had like 2 people going while I was at the airline. But that allowed me to keep the videos going. But yeah, it wouldn't be possible to do it anywhere else. So it seems like that has gone.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize is that the pilots that are in those airplanes, they're paid for the time that they're flying. So they're not paid, if you're going to go to Miami and you got to get to the airport an hour and a half before, an hour before, you need the jump seat or whatever you're going to be sitting in, you got to fly to Miami, you got your stuff there, you got to move over to your airplane, none of that is paid.
Yes, exactly. All the stuff on the ground while the door is open, you're not getting paid. So me sat there as a first officer doing weight and balance, like doing all the calculations as the captain sipping his coffee. I'm not getting paid for all that. It's just that as soon as that door closes, so like you say, all the rest of the stuff, the travel time to get to and from the airport, and make it like that would be my responsibility if I'm having a commute down to Miami. That's all on me. So yeah, it's just not something that I've decided that I want to do.
All right. Well, those here that are fans of you've heard it here first.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, literally. I've not said that to anybody.
Look at that. Look at the journalism here. We should go work for CNN.
I know. Breaking news.
I'm gonna go see if Fox News or MSNBC are hiring. So, I can make political comments all day long. Hey, so now that you get furloughed, right? So you get that horrible day. And I don't want to linger on too long on that, but it's part of the story, right? So it's part of what this world is right now for aviation.
Absolutely.
So what does your world look like since that day happened when you got that call?
So I'll be honest, we knew it was coming, right? Everybody's known, and you look at your seniority lists as you're at the airlines, and you know it's coming. So I'm in a better position than other people have been at the airline because they don't have instructing to fall back on. Because despite what everybody thinks, like airline pilots are all about routines, and they get into their routine of being at the airline, doing everything there, and they don't have anything else outside of it. So I was lucky in the fact that I, still instructed. I keep myself current in general aviation and all that. So I had that to fall back on. So I was never worried about making money. However, the dream has always been to be an airline pilot. That's the whole point of building up the hours and getting to where I was. So that was the whole point. So but it wasn't like we didn't know that the notices were coming. But even so, as soon as I got the email through, because the email came through before the letter, obviously, it still gave me a horrible sinking feeling that I'm not an airline pilot anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was a horrible feeling. And I made a furlough video, actually, kind of explaining how I was feeling and what I was going through. And the amount of support on that video was ridiculous. That's probably my most commented video. But it's sort of an outpouring of, are you still an airline pilot? This doesn't mean that you're not an airline pilot.
Right.
You're just furloughed. You'll get back to it. But and I understand that. But for me, that's all I've ever wanted to do is be an airline pilot, and that's kind of been taken away from me, and there's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah, that's the hard thing too, right? When you know that there's nothing you can do.
Exactly.
And you're a young guy, so you were not at that point, obviously, during 9/11, right? You're way too young for that.
No. Yeah.
So this is really your first cycle of dealing with this kind of BS.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was about 18 months into being a pilot, and I was working up. I was getting close to upgrade. I was getting excited. I'd already done my another type rating. I did 2 type ratings while I was there, and it's yeah.
Well, have faith. I think that you did the right thing, and I honestly think, I really do believe this, that it's not going to be quick. There was coming back from September 11th wasn't quick either. But I really do believe, like in 2-3 years, I think that we're gonna see a huge. We always talked about the pilot shortage, right? And then all of a sudden this thing happens. It's like, what pilot shortage?
Exactly. Right.
Where's this pilot shortage you were talking about?
Exactly.
But I really do think that I've actually I'm talking with folks over at Embry-Riddle and like University of North Dakota, UND.
Yeah.
And so they're looking at this saying, listen, a lot of people have stopped flying. A lot of pilots went and did something else. And so in 2-3 years from now, there is going to be a big demand for pilots again. So hopefully you guys will get those signing bonuses and everything else.
Absolutely. Well, the thing is, the world is always going to need air travel.
Right.
That's the thing. You're always going to need it. It's the only thing that connects the world.
Yep.
Right. I mean, you got ships and everything, but who wants to ride on a ship for however many hours? Come on.
The USS Titanic.
I'd much rather be in the back of a cylinder flying through the sky. But it is going to come back. And I actually had an experience. I was walking one of my last days at before I was furloughed. I was walking through, and a guy recognized me in the terminal, and he was like, "Hey, I love your videos, man. I
cool.
need your advice." I'm like, "Yeah, talk to me." And he was saying, I'm doing my instrument at the moment, and I'm just wondering, is there any point in continuing with my training because of what's going on? There's no pilot shortage anymore. And I said, listen, I said exactly the same thing. The world needs air travel. And when this thing comes back, the airlines are going to be back in the market for pilots. We're always going to be necessary, So it's not a case of if, it's just a case of when everything comes back.
Yeah, they haven't replaced us yet with that full-time autopilot. They're working on it.
I know, exactly.
But they haven't done it yet.
Wouldn't work. Would not work.
That's right. We're gonna sabotage this thing as soon as it gets installed. So,
Exactly. MEL the thing, whatever.
hey, before we get to the brand new student pilots, so because of
Yeah.
COVID, and now that we're, one thing I'm kind of seeing is a lot of rusty pilots, right? The big conversation in general aviation is rusty pilots.
Yeah.
So are you, as a CFI, in the world that you're doing now, are you seeing rusty pilots coming in, or are you really kind of still seeing the student pilots, the real beginner ones?
So for me, I've had a couple of experiences with rusty pilots, but nothing recently. It's
Mhm.
I was actually saying this today on I was flying with somebody today, and I said that since all this has happened, I have not seen a slowdown in flight training.
Really?
I've not seen anybody, slowing down. I've seen all the flight schools at Orlando Executive seem to be going all the time, and there's always planes in the sky. There's L3 Academy up at Sanford near here, which is always going. You always hear those guys out there. I've not heard of anybody stopping. So I mean, yeah. But as far as rusty, I've had a couple of those guys coming in doing flight reviews after like 10 years.
Mhm.
And one guy recently, he didn't do his review with me, but he came back in and finally got his flight review done. But it's a case of getting back on the horse, because it's
Mhm.
just like riding a bike. That, like, literally, that's all this game is. It's just getting back into the rhythm of things and getting yourself back out there. There was one guy came back after about, I think, 15 years. Older guy.
Mhm.
I hope he wouldn't mind me saying.
That's
But
okay.
he
He's not
came back
talking
and
about
he got.
me.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that off camera.
That's right.
We'll talk about your performance off camera about
Yeah.
that.
Bob, we're going to talk about proficiency, not just you did 3 touch and
Exactly.
goes. We're going to talk about
Exactly. Yeah.
proficiency.
Go on. Yeah. Well, the strut needs servicing now. Thanks,
That's right.
mate.
The tire was flat before I landed.
But the guy, he came back and he struggled after 15 years, mainly with radio calls.
Mhm.
That was one of the things that was really getting him after 15 years. But it was just a case of getting him back into the thing and reteaching him. After 1 or 2 sessions, he was back into it and he was back fine. But it was just that little bit of rust just needed to shake it off.
I didn't have this in one of my questions, but I'm going to follow up on that. So, because air communications, like especially going now into a pure student pilot, right? Not even the rusty pilot. So, like, honestly, I honestly, to be honest with you, I think that flying an airplane is relatively easy, right?
I agree.
It's all the other stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's understanding of weather. It's the FAA. It's making sure you don't tell the air medical examiner something you don't want to, and you never get your license. So if you had a fight with your girlfriend and you're feeling depressed, don't tell your AME that you're depressed.
Exactly.
That'll be the end of your aviation career.
Let me get you a prescription. No.
That's right. What medications you take? I take none.
Exactly. Yeah.
What's that bag of pills in your thing? I take no medications.
I've just got really bad breath. Don't let's stop.
That's right. But for air communication specifically, how do you, especially if you get that one student, I'm sure you've had a lot of them now, you get that one student who's just nervous to begin with, right?
Yeah.
And then you tell them, hey, you got to talk to these people, and they're these authority figures, right?
Right.
And you don't know what you're doing to begin with in the airplane. So how do you try to, what's your tips for somebody that's listening to this and how to get better with that?
So what I do is I try and humanize everything. I try and make everything seem simple, because really it is. You're just talking to another human being. It just happens to be through clicking a button on a yoke and talking through a radio, which is cool in the first place because you hear yourself over the radio. I love that stuff. But I try and make it as simple as possible. So just tell people that you're talking to another human being, and that human being is there to keep you safe. Like literally there, basically to serve you. You know what I mean? And it's you work together to keep the environment safe, but he's there to keep you safe. And then I have a radio communication guide that I literally typed out what to say in different situations. So when you've got the weather, you're requesting taxi, this is what you say. When you're requesting takeoff clearance, this is what you say, and stuff like that. And I'll literally allow the students for the first few flights, I'd say literally have the sheet in front of them and they'll read off the sheet. and they'll see the responses, and I'll get them to write down the responses, which I think is a huge thing, by the way, writing down the instructions. And then just be calm and deliver it in a nice, clear way, and you don't have to rush. Like that's one of the big things about it, because people think you've got to be like, the air traffic control says something, you've got to be really quick. No, take your time with it. You're learning. The speed will come in time. But yeah, just try and make it as simple as possible. You're just talking to another human being. That's it. It's like me and you talking now.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, and the air traffic controller can usually tell if it's a student. So
exactly.
they can tell by your voice how fast you're responding with things, and they usually will give you a lot more leeway.
Exactly.
Well,
I heard that instance today. Actually, there was a lady that was I'm assuming she was a student, because she was speaking very kind of like unsure of herself, and the tower didn't give her any issues whatsoever. He kind of slowed what he was saying, slowed it down, to kind of help her out, and she got out the airspace fine, and she took off and left the area fine. So
cool.
They'll help you out. You may get one or two guys that you catch on a bad day, but you know what? If you have to piss someone off, unfortunately, that's the way it's got to be. You're learning, you know.
Yeah, there was an air traffic controller out of New York that I made mad at me one day. He chewed me out in the air. But
oh God.
I was searching. What was that? Was that website? Live ATC, not Live ATC.
Live ATC. Yeah.
I was searching there for a while, making sure that I wasn't showing up. But you're right though. In the end, they're there to help. Exactly, so don't be too afraid of them. Even if you make a mistake.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, I'm going to try to steal some of your brain power here, right? So we kind of jumped into a little bit already. But what I really want to look at first is the brand new student pilot, right? So we've got this brand new, never been used. They're right out of the box student pilot. They're still wet, still got the warranty sticker on them. Yeah. And you've got your experiences now. What would be your recommendation? Now you've been working as a CFI now. So what's your recommendation for that student? Let's say they're listening to this, right? And they've never been in a small airplane before, and they're just like they're like, oh my gosh, this guy Lew, I've been listening to him. He's so motivational, and today's going to be the day. I'm going to start today, Lew. I'm going to go learn how to fly an airplane today. So right. what's your recommendation for how to get started?
All right. Well, firstly, I'll check my schedule, see if I can fit you in. Okay, that's the first thing. No, it all starts. I always get people that saying that they've never flown before. Fantastic. Let's do an intro flight. Let's go and have fun. Okay. Let's not make it about learning too much about how the airplane flies or kind of aerodynamics behind things or how this and this works. I want to get you behind the controls to see if you enjoy this thing. First of all, you know what I mean? Usually people love it and they want to come back for more. So at that point, once you've got through that introduction flight, which again, I will stress that has to be fun, because I've known people that have come to me. I actually flew with a guy the other week, 15-year-old kid. He came with his dad, and they said they took an intro flight with a flight school, and the instructor would then only let the guy touch the controls in cruise for a few minutes, and then they took the plane back. I'm not like that. I let people do the takeoff. I also let people shadow me on the landings, and I let them do all the turns, the climbs, descents, because I'm an instructor. I'm there to use my words to help people fly. I try not to be too hands-on, but it's got to be fun for you coming in for that first ever flight. So, and then after that, once that flight's been done, and inevitably they say, okay, I want more, give me more. And I'm like, calm down, let me check my schedule. At that point, I'll give information on ground school courses to go and do, because I think it's important to have a foundation of knowledge before coming in, because that's going to set you up and also allow you to pay less of me talking down your ear, telling you this, and this. You already understand a few things. So I think kind of laying that foundation with an online ground school is perfect. And then I usually tell people kind of minimum 2 times a week flying to keep up proficiency. I've got couple of guys at the moment they're only doing once a week, but they actually fly pretty well for only doing it once a week. And then I've got another guy that we're trying to do 3 times a week, but he actually went a step further and already got the written test out the way before he even came and flew with me, which I think is fantastic. And he got a really good score on it as well. So he's come in with amazing knowledge. Any ground that we do, he's knocking it out the park. He's answering my questions, and I'm literally immediately kind of asking him questions as if I'm testing him for the oral exam, and he's answering the questions no problem. So that's what I'd say. That you come in, first of all, do that intro flight, go and have fun, go and see if you enjoy it.
Yeah, you don't throw up on the dashboard.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And then kind of start laying that foundation, because the ground stuff is just as, if not more important than the flying. So the other thing that I would say is find an instructor that you get along with, because that's huge. I had so many instructors in my time that made me feel so uncomfortable that it was detrimental to learning, you know. So I think that's another important thing as well for brand new people.
Yeah, you know, when people talk about, and we're going to get into this next, but, you know, there's really no way around it, right? Learning to fly is not an inexpensive thing, right?
Right.
You know, I mean, we're surrounded by airplanes that routinely cost multi-million dollars. Even, you know, a relatively inexpensive 172, you know, is still $40,000 to $80,000, right? So, you know, plus the fact that, you know, people think gas is expensive when they bring their car to the gas station. You know, it's a lot different where we are. I don't know how it is by you, but we're approaching about $5 a gallon now. So in a lot of places,
I've got 7 at the executive. Yeah, if it's full service, it's about 7 upwards of 7.
Oh, they better be vacuuming my interior if I'm paying.
I know, seriously. I know. Give me a windshield wash.
That's right. You know, one time I had to go. One time I went to New York, and I will say it was funny because it was all big airplanes. And I had a little 182, right? So I'm coming in like, you know, 182. I'm messing up everybody's traffic patterns because, you know, I'm trying to go as fast as I can. But there's only so much I can do. And so we got there. And it was Teterboro, and so we get to Teterboro, and Teterboro is kind of an expensive person airport with the rich people. And but they were the nicest people ever. I just got fuel, and we went to get some lunch. We came back. They had candies and cookies on the seats for the kids. They were so nice. Anyways,
there you go.
I would pay $7 for that. So, now we already talked about the ground school portion, right? So, and I also do really recommend that. So this way, when you're getting into the airplane, you have kind of an understanding relatively of what's going on.
Right. Exactly.
So, what are some of the other recommendations you have for trying to keep the cost as low as reasonable, given that it's an expensive thing to do?
So the thing that I said about the amount that you're flying, the reason that is, if you're only doing once a week, and like I said, it can be done because I've got a couple of guys that are doing it now. But let's say you don't quite understand something that we do on, you know, the 3rd week of flying, let's say, and then it comes to the 4th week, and you've had a week in between when we've flown to forget even more stuff and not really practice what we need to practice. So you come in and you're still rusty from what we were learning in the lesson before, so we can't really move on, and that's where you start to build up the hops time and start to, you know, spend a little bit more money. The other thing is as well, if you don't study, I'm telling you, that's the biggest cost saver. Study at home. There are it's 2021. You have so many options on your computer, on your phone to go on and look at. Studying nowadays can be watching a video. Literally, it's and I learn the best seeing something. So videos for me are perfect. That's why during my instrument training, I was watching different YouTubers to kind of pick up tips here and there. And I've had people come to me and say, "Hey, watching your videos, I know you." I always put a disclaimer at the beginning saying it's not for it's not instructional, it's for entertainment purposes and stuff. But people are always saying, "Hey, I picked this tip up from you. I picked this up. This is how you've helped me." And it's like studying at home, reading material, watching videos, talking to people. Like if you happen to just find yourself near an airport and you want to, you go down and talk with some pilots, kind of get some tips here and there. Like you've got to surround yourself with this stuff. Like you've got to surround yourself and do your stuff you need to do at home.
Yeah, nowadays you talk about. I mean, that's actually, to be honest with you, that's how I learned of you. So I had, I know you're like this huge YouTuber guy, right? So you and Mr. Beast. You and Mr. Beast, you guys are.
Yeah, I ain't giving away anything. I'm not. I'm not got that
money. So what actually happened was I was talking with a group of people, and it had nothing to do with these videos or YouTube or any the stuff for Civil Air Patrol. But we were just having a talk amongst pilots, and one of the other pilots, we were just doing hangar talk, and he said, "Oh yeah, I saw I was looking up how to do this one thing, and I ran across this guy named." Lewis Dixon, and I really learned a lot from watching his videos. Bob, you should have him on your show. And I said, so I'll go check him out. And but man, that's that's one person right there, and that's an experienced pilot. That's not even a beginner pilot.
Right.
That guy's got probably 35 years behind him, and and he was still learning something. He was going out, and not even talking about you, but just he had that attitude, right? So the other thing too, if you're a student pilot, don't ever think you're done. Right?
Exactly.
So
exactly. I and even to this day, I don't feel like I'm good enough. And I think that is a healthy attitude to have, because it always promotes that you want to make yourself better. Always. Until I became a CFI, I was never fully confident getting into an airplane. There was always apprehension. There was always this thing of like, okay, this could go wrong. I'm second guessing some stuff. And then I became a CFI, and then I started to learn a heck of a lot more watching people make the mistakes that I was making as well. And then finding the words to be able to help them fix it. And that makes me in turn a better pilot, But yeah, it's incredible. I love this stuff, man.
Yeah, that's cool. I didn't even, they do say like the best way to learn something is teach it, right? That's one of the sayings. But man, it's interesting that you switch to the right seat. I'll be honest with you. Later on we're talking about becoming a CFI, and some of that is on a personal level. I want to learn because I'm in that process now of trying to transition into becoming a CFI.
Right.
So
honestly,
what's that?
It's a difficult transition.
Yeah, man. I just don't know. Like we're gonna talk about this later, but these people try to kill CFIs, and I just
every day, every day.
I mean, you go into. I think you're medicated personally. Like I see these videos, and they see you're so happy. You come into these airplanes, and you're having a good time with these people. These people are actively trying to kill you, and then like you get done, you're still happy, and I'm like, that there's something else going on. Now let me ask you this question. So, the average, so with student pilots, right, when they're just starting off, they get this thing in their head, right? They hear and they're reading about this 40 hours, right? It's going to take 40 hours to be a private pilot. In your mind, should that even be an expectation? Like, what have you seen as an average?
You already annoyed me, okay? Just saying 40 hours.
Right.
Like, that is, and the key word here, a minimum.
Right.
That is your minimum, right? I have never in my career or before I became a CFI saw anybody finish that I've known with 40 hours. Not even close. I usually see people between 60 and 80 for the initial license, because in Florida in the summer especially, all you get in every day is thunderstorms,
right?
And that stops flight training. When you stop training, even for a couple of days, you lose a little bit of proficiency. You got to go back. You got to do it a little bit more because you've not performed up to standards. And even like one of the things that I maintain, even though I have a lot of fun while I fly, is I hold high standards for students. And I think everybody should hold high standards for themselves. Always try and make yourself better. But it's, you got different factors. Maybe landings is a big one. Landings are very tough to master. And that's what I see people working on the most. You can be amazing at maneuvers, go out and kick maneuvers up the arse all day, right? But then it comes into doing the landings, and it's just not clicking, and it takes a little while to get it. So again, that's another little thing. And I often get the question is, how many hours do you think I'll finish? When do you think I'll solo? And my response now, my general response is, that's all on you. Like, it's all about how well you perform. So the more you can fly, the better. and it's all about keeping that proficiency and maintaining proficiency. But yeah, that's such a flawed thing to think. Oh, it's 40 hours. Okay, I'll get my thing done in 40 hours. Nah, but budget for double is what I say. You know, and if you do it in less, pleasant surprise.
Yeah, we had somebody. It was a friend of mine. They started flying way back when I started, and they had we were both college students, and on their wall, they had a chart. You know, and it was like if you broke off a link, for Christmas, you'd have a bunch of links to the day before Christmas. Well, they had this thing, and it had 40 of them, and I'm like, well, what's that? He's like, well, that's when I get to be a pilot, and I'm like, what world? like you think you're going to be done with this in 40 hours? Like, that's not how it's actually going to work. I'm like, you're going to be really disappointed when that last link is done and you're like, you haven't soloed yet.
You can't just send 40 links to the FAA and say, I'm done.
That's right, I'm done. Look at I had the little ripped pieces of paper.
Exactly.
So, the other thing too, there's a saying I love, for those that have heard it, you talk about keeping high expectations. And there's a saying, the worst thing about low expectations is that you might actually meet it. And I love that saying. Yeah. So
I like that. Yeah.
Be high, and if you got to struggle to get there, you're going to be doing much better than the person who met their low expectations. So.
Absolutely. That's another thing for the written test, because people see the passing grade for the FAA test is 70%, and it's like, oh, that's easy. I can get that. Why are we aiming for that? Right. I don't sign anybody off to take a written test if you don't show me practice tests, and you need 3 of them above 90%. Aim high. Aim as high as you possibly can. Like this is no game to be aiming low.
Yeah, good luck passing your verbal with the examiner if you only got a 70 on your written. I mean, for gosh sakes, there's only 3 options, and usually one of them is BS. So you've got to if you just guessed, you'd probably get a 50 on the thing.
Exactly.
So I know there's a big argument like in Canada. They're like, we're so much harder because they have 4 options per question. We have 3. Hey, do you recommend your students, preparing to fly with you to do chair flying, say with Microsoft Flight Simulator or X-Plane or? Absolutely.
The guy that I took on an intro flight a couple of weeks ago, he is an avid flight simmer, and it shows. Like it shows it, even just something as simple, like it sounds simple to say, but when you're in the plane, it's fairly technical at first to understand keeping a plane straight and level, and in a turn what to do, because you lose a little bit of lift in a turn, so you've got to pull back a little bit. He was having no trouble with it, and it was all because of Flight Simulator. When I was doing my instrument training, I would always do the flight, and then I'd go home and I would turn on Flight Sim, and I would do what we did in Flight Simulator and fly approaches in there. And it really helped me out. That's literally where I honed the skills. And again, it saves money.
Right.
Like, you can spend some time on there and you can see some stuff, and kind of if something didn't quite make sense in the flight, go and practice on Flight Sim. See if it starts to make more sense. Text your instructor. Ask this, and that, and kind of work it out. And that's you taking the steps and taking control of what you're doing. Because all we do as instructors is to try, we slowly get ourselves out of the airplane. We slowly take ourselves out of the equation. It's all about getting you to the point where you are the pilot in command.
Right.
That's it. And doing all that gets you to that point. It really does. So Flight Sim, honestly, it's a huge tool.
All right. So I've got a free tip. Nobody has to pay me for this. So, and I think if your students if you're not doing this, you really should start. So if you have a significant other, when you're on the flight simulator, show them how the little ball works. And, and so this way, if the ball starts slipping out, have them take your chair and shove you to one side and have them start yelling in your ear, rudder, right rudder. So
yeah, right rudder.
Right rudder. I don't even know why there is a left rudder. Just
I know,
right.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. So now, let's say you got that student, right? They're progressing pretty good. What do you look for before letting somebody go on that first solo?
Okay, so I don't want to on a flight before the solo. I don't want to say a word.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't want to say a word. I usually take people out to a different airport, or if I can't do that, take them out, do a couple of maneuvers, and then they'll take me back into the airport. Because what I want to see is you can get out and you can get back in. just in case something goes on and you need to go somewhere else, whatever. But I on
That's a
that
good
flight
idea.
before, I don't want to have to correct anything. I don't want to have to say you're 100 feet off your altitude, you're 50 feet off, you're heading. What are we doing here? You didn't do this checklist. Again, because when you're solo, you're piloting command. Okay, it's all you doing the thing. It's all you doing the flying, doing the talking, doing everything. The other big thing is spotting other traffic. If I'm having to help you out see other traffic, how's it going to be when I'm not there? You know what I mean? So, like I said, I hold really high standards, and I will even. It's at a point where on the day of the solo, I will go up and do a couple of landings and make sure you're okay on the day as well, because at the end of the day, it's my license at stake as well when I'm signing you off and saying that nothing's going to happen on your solo. So I want to make 100% sure that you're going to be okay.
All right. So if you're flying with Lew and you're getting ready to solo and he's just like, you think he's pissed at you and he's not talking to you for the whole flight, then maybe that's a good thing.
Maybe that's a good thing. Absolutely. Yeah. It gets to a point where like on the ground, we'll get on the ground. I'll just be like, all right, I'm going to get out. Like, I love the reactions. It's like, oh, really? I'm like, yeah, I did nothing,
Yeah, depending on the kind of airplane, you throw a parachute and just jump out.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I'm out. See you. So actually, so that was actually kind of led right into the other question I had. So looking at it as a CFI, right? So we always talk about the first solo, right?
Yeah.
I want you to go back now to, I mean, God, you look like you're 12 compared to me. I look like I'm 113 years old.
I'm 30. Thanks, Paul.
Yeah, man, I got to work out more. All right. So how that very first time, we always talk about how nervous somebody might be when they're on their first solo, but you as a CFI, what was going through your mind? How nervous were you when you had your first student pilot going on their solo?
Mate, I still to this day don't want to send anybody solo, just because I can't affect anything. I can't do anything. I'm not there anymore. It's like, I don't know. It's like a mother sending the child to school on the first day ever. But no, I was on the ground and I was excited, but it was more nerves than anything. I had no real doubts that the student wouldn't perform. Like, I knew they were going to perform because I'd flown with them a lot and they were showing really good things. And again, I didn't have to say anything. So I'm like, you don't need me here. But still, there's just that thought of what if I don't know, what if the engine sputters a little bit and they start to panic and all of a sudden everything else starts to go out of control. I can't control anything. So it's a horrible feeling. But it just, that's where it goes back to having to train somebody to a point where I am literally not doing anything while I'm in that plane. And there is a moment as an instructor, you feel the moment and it's like, okay, yeah, this person's ready, so.
Yeah. So were you super excited when they got on the ground, and kind of shared that moment with them?
I was jumping around. I was screaming. I was like, yes, on the ramp. Like, I'm sure people looking at me like, what is he doing? But it's still exciting to this day. I'll still do it to this day, even like it was my first student going solo, because it's a huge achievement. Like, you will never forget that first day, that first solo. You'll never forget it. And as an instructor, to be a part of that, I don't feel like in aviation there's another experience like it, honestly. Like, it's exhilarating flying planes, whatever your own experiences and own achievements, but to know that you've helped somebody else realize a kind of a dream is a ridiculously cool feeling.
Yeah, especially when you consider the fact that there's been how many billions of people alive in this world ever, and there's such a small percentage that have ever flown an airplane.
Exactly.
And you have allowed somebody to do that. So
yeah, absolutely.
That's pretty sweet.
Absolutely. It also, especially if you're taking somebody from brand new, it's somebody that you've shown your methods, your ways of doing something. It's also kind of gratification that you're doing the right thing as well. You know, you're teaching somebody the right way, and it's and what you're doing is correct. So it's it's fantastic feeling. But during it, I hate it.
You know, I want to get back to that in a second, but one quick question for you. Just so how long, and maybe the answer is you still haven't, but how long did it take while you were being a CFI before you started kind of feeling comfortable as being an instructor in the airplane?
That probably took, like I said, I'm never fully comfortable in a plane. Never. There's always something that could go wrong, and you've always got to be on guard. But I probably maybe about a year into being a CFI when I'd really seen a lot of stuff from students, and even to this day, I'm not saying that I've seen everything that anyone can throw at me, but I've had my fair share of experiences that have been like getting the heart pumping. But once you've been through those and you've come through it, and you know you've helped somebody else come through it, you start to gain a lot more confidence. And now, like I said, not fully comfortable, but I'm a lot more confident in my abilities, you know?
I think a lot of times the student may not even realize how big of a challenge, how big of a trouble they got themselves into.
Right,
the
exactly.
CFI is probably, you know, they're probably looking at you and you're like, you know, and they're like, what happened? And they're like, we were 10 seconds away from dying.
Exactly.
You're the third person to try to kill me today.
Absolutely. And they're just going, oh, cool.
That's right. Well, all right.
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
You mean I'm not supposed to spin it into the, let's see. So now a large number. So I do want to say, you know, I have watched, I kind of went on a LewDix marathon for the last couple of days, right? Getting ready to talk to you.
Did you click on the adverts?
I did not click on the adverts. No, I pay for it. So I have the YouTube premium thing.
There you go. All right.
So yeah, I don't stand in line at Disney, and I don't watch YouTube ads. So I will say though, I've really enjoyed your enthusiasm. So I'm sure people will get that, you know, watching this video too. But so your enthusiasm when you get that first student, you know, that first flight, and then when you're getting that solo and you're getting that they're finishing. Man, it's infectious. I love your enthusiasm for aviation.
I appreciate that. I'm glad that comes across in the videos as well, because I try and be as genuine as possible.
Yeah.
Like there's little bits here and there where I'll talk to camera, and like if I'm flying with a friend, it'll be like a little skit where I'm trying to be funny. But the rest of it, while I'm flying with students and the flying, it's all natural stuff. So I appreciate that you can that you see that.
Yeah, you can't fake that stuff. People would see right through it if you tried. Like if I tried to act like that, people would be like, why is he doing that? You know, you know, you have to be you. And I love how enthusiastic you are. Now, all right. So now that's the positive. I'm going to go negative. You ready? Right. Here we go.
The negative.
Here comes the negative. I don't know. We've got to turn south. So,
okay.
And I don't mean Florida. So now a large number of pilots, right? They get to that solo, right? And then you see them like, not everybody, you know, but you see a number of them start to peter out after the solo, right?
Right.
And so how do we get people so that they continue, like, how do we improve the rate of people that, you know, succeed after solo? You know, you get any recommendations for people?
So here's my thing. Here's my thing on that. And again, it's funny you bring this stuff up, because a lot of the stuff you're talking about, I literally speak to people about this kind of all the time. I think the reason for that is when you get into a plane solo, let's say your instructor gets out, there's no safety net anymore. It's all you. And I think what happens is there's a tendency to not trust yourself, to not trust the plane, and to be in a situation where you don't feel like you can get yourself out of a situation if a situation was to arise. And I think that's where the apprehension comes in, and that's why I think people kind of tail off and say, okay, maybe this isn't for me. The fact of the matter is, no instructor worth their salt will be sending you solo if they didn't feel like what you were going to do in that solo, if they didn't feel that you were as good, if not better, than them. Right. No instructor worth their salt would do that to you. So I think it's a confidence thing, having to believe in yourself that you can do it. And you know, if you're walking away from an aeroplane after you've gone solo, you've done a very, very good job. You've done a very, very good job, and there's no reason to be walking away. You know, nerves is fine. but you've just flown an airplane solo. You know what I mean?
Right.
You've done it. You've shown that you can continue, and you have the skills necessary to continue doing what we're doing. So that's what I'd say. It's a confidence thing. Having trust in yourself. So yeah.
Man, I wish you could see my list of questions here, because you just segued that so freaking good. So
you are welcome, Bob.
So I appreciate. Literally, the next question was, because you're talking about nervousness. Literally, the next question was, how? Hang on. I don't want people to think I'm lying. All right, so here's my questions. So
how do you handle a nervous student pilot?
how do you handle the nervous pilot? Man, you did good on that one.
Beautiful segue. I should be a co-host of this.
Man, I'm telling you, I can't pay you, but and honestly, I should probably be your co-host, not the other way around.
Yeah, no. Let's migrate over to LewDix Aviation. All right,
that's right. Anytime.
How do you handle a nervous student pilot? Let's take an example, because the big one is stalls.
Yep.
That brings up the most apprehension in a student that I've ever seen out of anything, really. Because you think stall and you think falling out the sky. Okay, right. That's immediately what the mind goes to. If the student doesn't understand what is going on, if they don't understand the baseline foundational knowledge of how an aircraft stalls, the aerodynamics behind it, how a stall isn't the wing stopping producing lift, because right. It's still producing a little bit of lift, and how to counteract it, or how to recover from it, and the aerodynamics of the recovery, there's going to be all sorts of apprehension and people feeling nerves. So they've got to have that baseline knowledge, and they've got to have an understanding. That's why a thorough pre-flight briefing about it is crucial. Watching videos about it in your own time as the student pilot is crucial. And then actually getting them out there and getting them behind the controls to do it. Because once they've seen how simple it is, I always try and make a point of doing a stall first and showing the student how easy it is to recover, even without power, because usually the recovery is to go full power. But I show it without power, because all it is just push the nose down, decrease the angle of attack, and the plane is flying again. Once they see that, I've seen that the apprehension kind of goes away, and they're like, oh my God, that was simple. That was easy. And it is. Mm-hmm. It's very simple, but unless you've got that knowledge, you're always going to be apprehensive because you don't know what's going on. It's the same thing with people getting nervous in the back of a commercial airliner. They're not in control of anything. So that augments augments. I don't know if that's the right word. It just raises that apprehension because you're not in control. You don't know what's going on. If you know, so much better.
Now, curiosity, I don't have a question for this. So this is a new one. You didn't segue that one, buddy. We gotta talk about this. You're fired. So I actually thought that's actually interesting. So it took me about a couple of flights after September 11th when they started closing the cockpit doors. Because I always like sitting in the aisle so that I could look, down the aisle and I could watch what the pilots were doing. Yes. Could I land that plane? Yes. Would the plane be reusable? Probably not. But, but you watch the movies like Airplane, right? Where both pilots get sick, hey, I can fly an airplane. I'm going to be the hero, right? But as a pilot, like you're used to being a type A, usually a type A personality, wants to take charge. You want to know what's going on. And so by being able to see the cockpit, it's like, it gives you that little bit of taste. Like, okay, I can kind of see what's going on and where we are and blah, blah. Now, when they closed the doors, I got really nervous. I started getting really nervous for a little while. Right. Now, I see, did you probably have always been flying with the doors closed, right? Have you ever had the doors open when you were flying?
Not that I can remember. I can remember being allowed to go up to the flight deck and kind of seeing the guys. But that was when I was a young child. So, which was before September 11th. Right.
But now, even with that though, like since you are, you were a first officer, and you still are a first officer,
Yeah.
So you're still a first officer, and nobody can take that away. You still got your stripes. Do you ever find yourself like, have you flown in the back? Like, have you ever do you ever find yourself nervous? Like, like if you get in that bad turbulence, like because you can't see what's going on, or you've flown so much, you're like, they got it, I'm going to sleep.
Honestly, I don't get nervous.
Mhm.
I don't get nervous. What I do is I criticize so much when I'm back there.
You go
I'll
up front.
sit
Nice
there.
landing, pal.
Exactly. Should have pulled back a little bit more, yeah?
Yeah, nice flare. Do you know what the word flare is?
Yeah, I know.
So
It's funny you say that because the first captain that I flew with on IOE out of training for the airline, like my first landing was a night landing, and I didn't flare enough.
Oh.
Luckily, there were no people on board. We were doing a charter, and we dropped him off, and he was like, "Hey, you want to try more flare next time?" I'm like, "Oh God," but no, I usually sit back there and I kind of try and picture what's going on up there because I'm familiar with the kind of what goes on, even if I'm not familiar with the equipment. I'll kind of sit back there and kind of try and feel my way through what they're doing, especially now having been at an airline and kind of knowing certain procedures, because that's all airline work is. It's just getting into a rhythm of things. And it's the same stuff over and over again. So yeah, I don't really get nervous. What I do always want to do is let everybody on the plane know that I'm a pilot, and if anything goes wrong, you're going to be okay.
Right.
But I think that's natural with all of us.
You get the little old lady next to you, and she's like, it's okay, honey. We're gonna be okay. It's a bump.
Yeah. No, I had I was on a deadhead with the airline, and I was in my uniform, and there was a woman next to me, absolutely terrified of what was going on, and she was grabbing my arm on the takeoff. So I just looked. I was explaining to her the whole time what was going on, and she kind of calmed down a little bit, which was another really cool thing. Because again, as an instructor, you use your words, and I was using my words to kind of try and help her out. And she felt better, and she was okay throughout the rest of the flight. So
it's like anger management issue. Use your words. Use your words. Can't punch the old lady out.
Exactly.
You got to use your words.
Don't slap them, Lewis.
All right. So I had another question. A really quick, stupid story, but I think this was funny because we're talking about the flaring. You might like this one. So you may have seen this too in your flying career. You see these people jumping from Pipers and Cessnas, then jumping into bigger iron. We were in a C-130, an Air Force aircraft that's pretty good size,
Right.
And so they had a new pilot sitting in the right seat, as a first officer, and we're coming in for a landing. And the C-130, it's a fat airplane. It settles real long.
Right.
And so the captain's like sitting there going, okay, you should start thinking about flaring. We're coming down. And now I'm already like, oh, this is going to be rough. The captain's taking over. Right. And then the captain's like, no, really, you should start thinking about flaring. Right. And so the guy's like, okay. And then the captain's like, no, I mean now. He just grabbed it, and that thing just went whoosh.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, you didn't tell me to flare. He's like, I told you to start thinking about flaring. I was thinking about it. But he was so not used to being in such a bigger airplane where you turn the tire.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I thought that was a funny story. But anyways, all right. So now you've taken this. All right. So we've got this unformed piece of clay, right? That is your student pilot, right? Yeah. Now you've molded them into this super pilot. Now they're getting ready for their check ride, right? Now, if people aren't nervous flying the airplane, if they're not nervous talking on the radio, chances are they're going to be nervous for their check ride. Right?
Without a doubt.
A lot of really incredible student pilots fail their check rides for no reason other than they were just nervous. Yeah. So what recommendations do you have for people that might, fighting that nerves on their check ride?
So I was one of those people that before the private pilot check ride, I was so nervous, couldn't eat. Really, really nervous. My instructor on the day brought me, I think, an Egg McMuffin. McDonald's, let's get a brand deal. But I wouldn't eat it because I just couldn't. I was so nervous. And then it's the fear of the unknown. You don't know what you're stepping into as a brand new, as a private pilot going into something like that. You don't know what's going on. You've heard horror stories of, it's question after question after question. It's like, he's going to ask you this, this, and this. You've got to go deep into this. Luckily for us, it's not like that at all. I always tell people that it is a casual conversation between you and somebody that happens to be a pilot, which is an uncomfortable situation to be in. But you're just going to be tested to see if you can handle this and be a pilot yourself. But you're just having a casual conversation with another human being about flying. That's it. All your training up until that point has been to get you to that point. You've done the necessary groundwork, because again, any instructor worth their salt will take you failing as a hit on them. It will hurt them as much as it hurts you. That's the way that I view it. I hate seeing people fail. I've only ever had one student fail, and it wasn't on the oral. It was because the DP came back from the flight and literally said he was so nervous that he forgot how to fly. And I was like, oh man,
take over.
Yeah, like he got through the difficult part, which is the oral part,
right?
You know, but yeah, it's just a casual conversation, and it's from a practical standpoint. So what the way that I kind of calm people down with that is, let's say you get a scenario based question, and it's kind of asking, well, what would you do? If you give an answer based around safety, you can't fail.
That's right.
You can't fail. Okay, the VFR minimums are 1,000 feet, 3 miles. Mm-hmm. You know, what would you do in a situation like that if the weather's like that? Oh, well, I obviously wouldn't go fly because my minimums are such and such. You can't fail. He can't fail you on that. The apprehension also comes with kind of knowing, you know, yes or no questions. And then the big mistake is, if it is a yes or no question, the student or the PPL candidate kind of goes, yes, because this, and then this, and then this goes with this. Just shut up.
Yeah, that's right.
Shut your mouth. Be as concise as possible. But yeah, it's just a casual conversation. That's all it is.
Don't try to act like you know more than you do, because if you fake it, like you were just saying, like, you just answer the question, because if you try to fake it to try to impress them, first of all, or her, you know, you're not going to impress them. And if anything, you're probably going to like say something that's probably not true, and then they're going to start digging into it. So.
Exactly.
Now I saw a recent. I'm probably going to fumble this, so hopefully the FAA ever watches this and they can send me a correction. But I want to say the actual pass rate on the private's pretty good, actually. It's like 78% or 80%, or
it usually is. It usually is. It's. I don't want to say it's not difficult, because it's a tough ask.
But you're trained before you go to it, which is why people pass.
No, of course, exactly. You've been through the training, and again, the instructor, who must be worth his salt, is signing you off to say that you will go and pass this test, because you've shown that you're good enough. So again, it just comes back down to that confidence. Like for mine, like I said, I was nervous, and then we got in there, and he was asking questions, and I took it one question at a time. I answered slowly. If I needed to write something down, for example, one of the questions you're going to get is about part 91.205 in the regs, required equipment, which is a long list of equipment that you need.
Yep. So
literally, I took the time to write down the acronym and go through it. Mm-hmm. And that's perfectly acceptable. You know, we are not robots. We are not supposed to know everything in the world about everything. So if there is a question that isn't quite clear in your head, as far as the answer, but you know where to look it up, that's what the FAA wants to see as well. They want to see that if you don't know something, you know where to find the answer to it. Like, let's say you don't know something on a sectional chart. You've got a legend on the other side of the chart. Open it up, have a look, you know? Mm-hmm. Now, having said that, that doesn't mean to say look up everything.
Right.
But just little things that can kind of relieve some of that apprehension about going in. It's not just a 6-hour grilling, although the CFI check ride is.
Don't tell me that.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I had somebody the other day, just thankfully passed it. But they were clearly stressed out, and I was like, oh.
Yeah. I got to be honest with you, and this goes against me trying to calm anybody down about any check ride. I've been through ATP type ratings, and the CFI was the worst one.
We're breaking up, Lou. I can't talk to you anymore. We're done. The internet's dropping out.
Get him off.
Mark Zuckerberg said that we need more power for Facebook. We got to go.
Yes, I got to go.
All right. Well, thanks. I appreciate that. So,
no worries.
the other thing, thanks. I got that going in my head. Lou said I'm going to have a horrible day. All right. So, the other thing too, I think it's important for people to realize, unlike say an exam in like college or something like that, if you fail it, you fail it.
Right.
In aviation, assuming you don't have like the situation where you said like where somebody just got nervous and that kind of was like it, for everything. Like if you do everything good and you mess up your soft field landing or soft field takeoff or whatever, you might get nicked on that. And they may say, okay, we have to come back and do that another day. And so when you come back, you don't have to do the whole test over again.
Not at all.
Do that one thing. They may add a few more things just to make it interesting, and worth your time. Yeah. But I thought your comment though about, listen, this is a friend. They're trying to make your safe, and because you're going to have passengers now, and making sure those people. I actually, to be honest with you, I've always looked at those folks as like another CFI. Some like every one of those folks I've ever flown with, they always tell me they want to provide value, right? Not just check you off. I mean, that's obviously the main goal, but if everything's going well, they also try to help you learn something from a different person, which I think is always great.
Absolutely. Like if you show competence and you show that you've made an effort to be a good pilot, to be a respectful pilot, you'll get a little bit of leeway here and there. And these examiners are always saying, I'm not here to instruct, which they don't. But what they will do is kind of give you a couple of pointers here and there. Like, let's say, you didn't answer a question quite correctly. You said something wrong. They're not going to tell you whether you're right or wrong at the moment, but they'll go, they'll kind of lead you down a path of questions to get you back around to the right answer. So, and again, if you're a competent pilot, they'll give you a little bit of leeway like that. If you go in there, you're not humble, you're cocky, and you think you know everything, then you're going to get absolutely grilled. Honestly,
right? You
will. But yeah, no. If you go in and show some competence, and even in the flying, even if I always tell people, let's say one of the restrictions is you got to maintain within 100 feet for a maneuver, which is usually the case. And you happen to hit 100 feet, in a steep turn, you're 100 feet low. If you verbally say, okay, I'm 100 feet low, I'm correcting. It's not an automatic fail. You've shown that you've seen what's going on and you are rectifying the situation. And the examiner, 9 times out of 10, is going to be okay with it because you've shown competence. If you sit there and you don't say anything and you're struggling to get that plane back up to altitude, then it's an issue because you're not showing that you're competent.
Yeah, because that person is watching the altitude, so you're not hiding it from them anyways.
Exactly, right.
Yeah, so you might as well correct. One last thing before we jump off to another topic. Not the name drop, but I'm talking about failing. What happens if you fail? But Nancy Bradshaw. Do you know Nancy?
Yeah, I know her.
Yeah, so Nancy Bradshaw. She just got a job flying a 747, and she's failed 2 check rides. She failed her private, and I think her commercial the first time she took her commercial. But but because of nerves, she knew how to fly the airplane. It was the nerves, and so she still battles that today. She's very honest about that. I talked to her a couple of weeks ago, and so if you are a student pilot, you're super nervous, and if you get all the way to that and you do have a problem that day, man, no harm, no foul. Dust yourself off, learn from it, and then hit it again. You're gonna succeed.
I agree completely. Another thing, I'm glad you said that because you'll eventually go to an airline interview. And they're going to say, what tests have you failed? Have you failed any tests? And if you say no, you don't get the job.
Really?
If you've failed something and you say no, you're not going to get the job because they know they can see records.
True.
So, I actually failed my CFI check ride.
Now you got me. I'm going to fail it on purpose now. I'm just going to go in and be like, you know what? I don't feel like it today.
Exactly.
Just fail me.
Ask whatever you want. Lewis said I'm going to fail it.
Lewis said I'm going to fail anyway, so I'm done.
But I failed that, and they asked me in my airline interview, have you failed any tests? And the best piece of advice that I got before going in from my recruiter was don't make any excuses whatsoever. Don't make excuses. Own it.
Right.
Own that failure because that failure made you better. And that's exactly right. I'll go on record saying that my failure was absolute horse shit. Sorry to all the 12-year-olds watching.
Hang on, ready?
Absolute most rubbish reason for failing, in my opinion. I'm not going to go into it.
But, that's a whole nother show. That's Lou Dixon after hours.
Exactly. Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, so that's my opinion, though. That's what I think, and that's literally what I tell people. Whoever asks me about my CFI check ride, I'll tell you I think it's a rubbish decision that I failed, and it was on the oral as well. But I went into the airline interview and I had to bite my tongue so badly because all I wanted to do was say, yeah, but the examiner this.
That SOB.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You can't do that. You can't do that. Just yes, I failed it. This was the reason I failed it, or this was the reason I was given that I failed it, and that's that. Own it.
Yeah, because ultimately, when you're the pilot in command of a big airplane with 300 people behind you, they need to know that the person that's flying that airplane owns what's happening, and they don't
exactly.
go,
yeah.
well,
exactly.
You know, what's Carrie Underwood's song? Jesus, take the wheel.
Yeah, exactly.
I did as best as I could do.
But the turbulence, man. That's right. What am I supposed to do?
So, hey, do you have a few extra minutes? I know we're kind of.
Yeah. Talk.
All right, sweet, man. Sweet.
Yeah.
All right, I'll come work for you. All right, so let's say now you're a brand new 300-hour CFI, right? So you're that brand new, right? And you've got your first student, right?
Yeah.
And they're walking up to you, and honestly, you're probably more scared than they are.
Absolutely.
And so what would you want to tell yourself back then that you know now?
Not everybody learns in the same way. And there is more than one way to do things. Reason being, I actually being on YouTube has enlightened me to people that are of that mindset that there is only one way to skin a cat, and that is the only way it should be done. And that's not true. There's different ways of doing things, and you have to basically be a chameleon as a CFI, because you got to change the way that you say something to a certain person. There may be a slight language barrier. I've had that before, and yeah, you kind of got to vary it up. So that there's more than one way to do it, because when I fly on my own, I do things a certain way. I do it that way. For example, let's take crosswind controls on a landing, for example. There's two ways of doing it, really. There's the crab method, putting the nose into the wind, and then at the last minute kind of bringing the nose around and dipping the wing into the wind. Or there's the slip method, which is the one that I prefer to do.
That's my style too. I'm a slipper.
Yeah, like that's the way that I've always preferred it. But even recently, doing some crosswind things, the slip method wasn't working for a student. So I've got to then look at myself and say, okay, I can't have too much pride here. I've got to be humble and just say, okay, my method that I usually do doesn't work for this particular student, so we'll do the crab method. So you got to kind of have different variations of things in your back pocket to kind of bring out, and that comes with time. Obviously, at first, as a brand new CFI, all I tried doing was just teaching people the way that I would do it, and I think that's a nice way of thinking about stuff. And then just you learn so much as you go along.
All right, now the most important question that you're going to get tonight.
Oh God,
you ready? So prepare yourself. Do students try to kill their CFIs on purpose, or are there just Darwin rules that apply to CFIs?
So students don't try to kill CFIs, okay?
Sure?
But they do it a lot. And to be honest with you, this may shock you, but I think that has to be the case for people to learn.
Yep.
I think if somebody didn't kick too much rudder in a stall and the airplane nearly spin away and your instructor jump in, I think if that doesn't happen, you've never been exposed to it. So when you actually get out there on your own, you don't really have a picture of how to deal with the situation. So I think it's a really good thing. I love most of the time when my students make mistakes because it's a learning moment. You know, I'll never get on somebody for making mistakes. You know, while training, because it makes you better. You're exposed to the different situations. You see how it is to rectify the situation, and you move on. But I don't think it's on purpose at all, unless, I don't know, you've got some sort of a death wish.
Yeah, I don't agree with you. But anyways, so I think it's on purpose.
Oh,
So, right, hang on. Well, all right. I'm so happy I found that button on my thing. Anyway, so
I mean, welcome to my channel, seriously.
all right. So here's the other question, right? So for people that like say they want to be an airline pilot, or maybe they want to professionally be all they want to do is be a CFI, right? There's folks out there that don't want to go to the airlines, they want to be a CFI. Yeah. Right. So what does it take, so that you can become a CFI? And how do you do that so you don't have to live in a 1-bedroom apartment with 5 other CFIs under a railroad bridge?
Right. That's a tough question, because
are you still trying to figure that out?
Yeah, that's like, I when I was working with a flight school at an airport in Kissimmee, close to Orlando, and I was getting paid $25 an hour. Not including pre-flight time, not including post-flight briefings and stuff like that.
By the way, I think that's BS.
Yeah, no, so do I.
Yeah,
completely,
absolutely BS. Like, I get the pre-flight, especially if you're finishing up one student, you send another student out. But the post-flight, that's so crucial to the success of what's going on. That's BS if they don't pay that.
Yeah, no, absolutely, definitely. I think it's also BS to charge a high price for instruction and only give the instructors a small portion of it. I think that's rubbish. Mm-hmm. But when I was a CFI down there doing that, I was living at home with the family. Wasn't paying rent or anything like that. So, and what I saw from other flight schools is the same thing. To be able to make enough money to be okay and to be comfortable, you were doing a lot of flights every single day. Mm-hmm. But of course, that can also burn you out a little bit. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I don't want to scare anybody off from being a CFI, because I think for the career-wise, first of all, you're gaining the hours, which is crucial if you want to get to an airline. That's basically one of the reasons that that people become a CFI, which I'll get onto that in a second. Remind me of that. Okay. But when I went independent, because I do everything on my own now, I'm not set up under a flight school per se. I'm just independent. I make a lot more money now doing less work, because of course I get to keep the whole instruction fee for myself. I'm not being gypped out of it by a flight school. I get to control the type of training that I'm getting, or the training that I'm giving. And also I know that I'm not kind of, this is going to turn into a flight school bashing session, but
no, man, it's okay. I love my local flight schools, but yeah, no, there's issues. It's not off flight school bash. It's an industry.
It's right.
They all do it. They all do it to survive. They have their own issues.
Right. Yeah. They'll make you do more than you actually have to do.
Right.
To be good. For example, I don't know if I should be giving examples, but
it's okay.
I've been in a situation where a guy has been ready to solo, completely ready.
Yep.
And he's been sent back to me for, one of the reasons was he said copy that to a non-essential radio communication, and I was told he needs more ground and more flying. And to me, at that point, my relationship with where I was kind of started to fall apart. Mm-hmm. I didn't like that at all. But that's another after-hours session, I'm telling you.
We'll get the therapist lined up.
Exactly.
Now, Lew, today on this flight, how did you feel?
Oh, don't stop it, Bob.
Now, I've got 2 questions left. So, and actually, before I do my 2 questions, let me come back to your thing about the getting the hours. I think you wanted to add to that.
Yeah. So that is, in my opinion, dangerous as far as for students to get involved with a CFI that is only looking to get his hours. Mm-hmm. That's why I say it's always good to get with an instructor that you like, that seems genuine, and all of that, because those guys are not going to care enough about your training, enough that you need about your training, they're more worried about flight hours. And I've seen, unfortunately, a few people that have been fairly close to me that have been like that, more about the hours than the student. This flight training game isn't about me at all. It's not for me. We're here for the students. We're here to build somebody up to achieve their dream. It's not about us building hours. That comes as a byproduct of what we do. And now I'm lucky enough now that I don't need the hours, so I can truly say that I enjoy doing this, and I'm not doing it for any other reason. I've had people come on in comments and saying, "Oh, young CFI trying to be funny, just doing it to build the hours." Not at all. You know, I'm still here to this day doing what I enjoy doing. You know, but I think that's important for CFIs. Any future CFIs out there, if you're just going to go into being a CFI just to get the hours, I think you need to reevaluate if you actually want to do that. Go and tow a banner, you know, go and do that. Go and inspect a pipeline.
Right. Go do skydivers. Like go do
right. Exactly. There's other choices out there. There's other options.
Now I wanted to ask a question about that. Not even a question. I will say the other thing too off of that is for anybody that's listening. If you get a CFI, they're not God, right? So if you get somebody that you don't gel with, and listen, they may be an awesome CFI, and they just your personality doesn't work. You know, don't feel bad about saying I'm getting a different CFI, right? Maybe even tell that CFI, hey, do you recommend a different CFI? Now that you've flown with me, you get my personality. Do you know of a different CFI? Because I'll tell you what, when I did my instrument, my original CFI who I loved, he was not a CFII, so he couldn't do my instrument. And so I went right for my instrument. I got this other CFI, and he was here, not saying anything negative, nothing racial, nothing anything. He was here from another country, and he was building his hours for the airlines, and he had already gotten kind of a pre-job, lined up once he got his hours up. And we sat down and was doing my instrument, and I was pretty confident because I'd done all the groundwork beforehand, and even when I was flying visual, I was still tuning everything in and shooting approaches and just doing it visually. And anyway, so I was pretty confident with what I was doing. In the first flight, man, the guy just kind of sat back, chilled, and like I hardly got anything. So I was like, all right, that was the last time I flew with him. So I was like, because he wanted his hours, and I was like, oh, somebody else.
That's the thing. You're in control of your training. Like, I know a lot of people go in very, very green, and what I mean by that is you don't know what's going on in the training environment. You don't know how it works and all of that. But you're in control. If something doesn't seem right, it's probably not right.
Right.
During my instrument, for my PPL, I was given 6 different instructors, and each instructor was making me go back and redo things with them because they hadn't seen me do them. But again, that goes down to maybe not the instructor's fault, maybe the flight school's fault.
Right.
Not taking care of my own training and my own path. That's where you've got to be in control. I didn't know better at the time. So I didn't have somebody at the time telling me that I'm the one that's in control of it, because you go in and you just think, okay, here's my money, let's go and do it.
Right.
But you're in control of it. If, like I said, if something doesn't seem quite right, it's probably not right.
That's right.
But yeah, you're always in control.
All right, Max. So I got 2 more questions. So
here we go.
All right, you ready? So these aren't as challenging as the other one. So so now, kind of going back to one of the previous questions I said about could tell yourself if you had to do it over again. But like, what's a skill? And I think you've kind of already reached on it. But what's a specific skill that a new or existing CFIs, what do they need to have that you didn't realize before you were a CFI?
Oh, that is a tough question, actually. Hold on, give me a second. You might have to cut this. While I think about it. I know.
The game show is Stump Blue.
Yeah. So I suppose, but I mean, I bet people are going to look at me like I'm an idiot because they'll think to themselves, well, that's obvious. But to me, it wasn't. Patience. Just for the simple reason that, like, if somebody might not get something first time, and I know I've had one of my good friends tells me all the time, well, I don't know how you can be a CFI, because if I was, I'd be shouting at them because I've not got the patience for them to keep messing it up. And I'm like, yeah, I can kind of see that. And to be honest, sometimes I think I do a good job of hiding frustration and kind of turning it into kind of a way to make it better, make whatever the student's doing better. But definitely you learn a lot of patience. You learn a lot, especially doing landings. It's like coming in, okay, we'll go around again.
Right.
You know? So I'd say that, to be honest.
You didn't break the landing gear, so we'll try.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. But yeah, no, patience.
We bounced higher than
final answer.
Yeah. Oh, good. Final answer. That's right. All right. So this whole time now we've been talking about the student pilots and other CFIs, and all right, now it's all about you. We don't care about these other people.
Yes.
They're non-existent. It's all about you, Lew. So now that we hopefully are coming out of the other side of this dumb COVID-19 thing, honestly though, I watched the videos coming out of Florida. Did you guys ever do anything different for COVID-19? I mean, what is up with Florida? But anyway, you're like, yeah, we kept flying. There was no slowdown. Right. It's like our airport, like we shut down.
Right.
But now that this whole like COVID-19 thing, we're not done yet. It's still real serious. You know, people out there swear, for the love of God, put on your damn mask. But now that we're starting to see the other side of that, what is next for you, Lew Dixon?
So for me, I value having time off, time to myself, and also just freedom to do what I want. And having been at the airline and now coming out of it, I was very sad at first. But then I kind of started thinking about it. I was like, I've got so much more time and I'm making more money doing what I'm doing now between YouTube and between the instructing to give myself that more freedom to do what I want. So my goal at the moment is to keep YouTube building because that for some reason in this day and age gives people money. Like
Lew, my YouTube channel is horrible.
You'll get
It's horrible, Lew.
I've been doing this since 2015 and I'm still not making enough to solely just do YouTube. You know what I mean?
That's good to know though. So you've been doing this since 2015. You've been doing the YouTube thing since 2015.
Yeah. 2015 is I think February was when I first uploaded my first video, which were terrible, by the way. Cringy.
You know what? Now let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
I'm kind of changing the topic a little bit, but I'm kind of curious myself. So if you got something going on, tell me, Bob, shut up.
Oh, you're fine. So I can eat tomorrow.
So yeah, right. I get my bill for $25 an hour, right? For
yeah, I know. Yeah, my Uber Eats just went cold.
So a lot of people when they watch these YouTube channels, right, and they see, oh, this person's doing so well, right, and they think to themselves, oh, they must have gotten it overnight. I don't think these people realize. And then the other question I have is, because I'm gonna go look because I hope you do. Did you keep your original videos online?
Yeah, they're all.
Oh, I want to go take a look at them.
Oh man, it's so bad.
They're the best though.
Oh man, it's I started with a GoPro and then a Sony Handycam, which is not built for a cockpit.
Yeah,
it was terrible. It was terrible.
I love that.
It's the beginning. It's the beginning of the channel, though. You know what I mean? Right. It's the history of the channel.
I love that you didn't delete it. I get so sad when somebody says, "No, I deleted it." I've only kept like the last year and a half or whatever. It's like, no, people love seeing the original stuff. Seeing where, because like, listen, I most of the stuff I do just for people that are watching this on YouTube, which isn't a lot of people. I don't get a lot of views on YouTube. I get my people on Civil Air Patrol, but I started doing this because of COVID, right? So I've only been doing this for almost a year now. But even though I'm still well within the I'm completely horrible phase, like even that I've looked at like my first couple of videos and I'm like, oh my God, even though I suck still, even though I still like I was even that much worse back then, you know? But it's just like anything else in life, if you have to, I forgot the guy's name. He does the podcast, Pilot to Pilot. Oh shoot. I think it's Jason. Oh, I'm sorry. He's not going to see this.
That's all I know him as, Pilot to Pilot.
Yeah, I'm sorry. If he's watching, he won't ever see this, but if he ever sees this, I'm sorry I forgot your name. If you see this, hey, come on my show. Tell me how to do this thing. But anyway, and do you have a button? I don't know. Anyway. So maybe he does. So anyways, he has a saying, to embrace the SUCK, right? Embrace it, right? So when you're beginning, you can't be good until you've been horrible. So
Absolutely.
and that's true with aviation. So when you're flying with a CFI, you start flying. Don't take yourself too serious. You're gonna fail. Your CFI puts you at 5,000 feet above the ground for a reason.
Right. No, exactly. Yeah. Right. Exactly.
He's preparing for you to try to kill him or her. So.
Absolutely. You let yourself make mistakes.
Right.
Let it happen. We all want to be perfect with everything we do, right? But you can't be perfect until you've made the mistakes. You have to make the mistakes.
Yep, that's when you learn. So,
exactly.
All right, well, hey, Lew, I think that is it, man. Well, first of all, we went long, so I really do appreciate you taking the extra time.
Yeah, no worries, man.
All right, anything that I'm gonna plug your YouTube channel down below, but again, me plugging your YouTube channel is like it's like taking an eyedropper and. But hopefully we'll get some Civil Air Patrol people to come check you out. Like I said, I had some pilots in Civil Air Patrol. We were hanging talking, and that's how your name came up. And I've been binge watching you, and I've fallen in love with your enthusiasm working with your students.
I appreciate it.
Anything you want to add for the folks out there?
No, not really. I'd just say if you're not already subscribed to my channel, come on over. We have a lot of fun. This has been a lot of fun. I've never done anything like this before.
Really?
So never. This is the first time. So thanks for having me on. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I'm sure you and I will stay in contact, and maybe we can do another one of these at some point.
Yeah, hey, listen. On a side note, I may cut this out. I may leave this in. I'm not sure. One of the things I've loved about doing these conversations is getting to meet so many people outside of Civil Air Patrol. And, and a lot of the folks are like yourself. They're that 20,000 to 100,000. I mean, listen, I had John and Martha King on a couple of weeks ago, right? They're the big name people, but
yeah, exactly. Right.
But most of the people I've been talking to are awesome people like yourself, right?
Right.
And so one of the things I'm going to be talking to Cessna about. So Cessna, they're coming on the show actually in a little bit. Hopefully they'll listen to this and go, yeah, Bob, we'll do this. I have no clout whatsoever, so they don't care about me at all. But but one of the things I want to do, and I talked to some of the other folks I talked to about, is having a little, I want to say YouTuber thing, because oh my God, that sounds freaking ridiculous. But having a little area, in the Cessna booth area, or when Oshkosh comes back alive again,
right.
Is having a little area that we kind of hang out in. From time to time, and then people can come and check people out. And I like doing these types of, interview type shows, and, so we can do interviews right there, or people can just come and visit and meet people.
Yeah.
And, if that's something you might be interested in, Dan, I definitely want to keep in contact with everybody. So
you mean something like a live kind of question answer type thing?
Yeah, kind of like a little live show at Oshkosh. Get a little panel going, There
you go.
Your favorite YouTubers.
Between me and Aviation 101. Done.
We'll get your old flight school up, and you can tell them how badly they treated everything you guys were doing.
Like Jerry Springer.
So I'm 6'8", 290 pounds. So I'll be like the bouncer guy. I'll be like, oh.
Yeah, there you go.
So,
exactly.
All right, man. Hey, Lew, again, thanks so much. And if you can, just hang on real quick. I'm going to come back to you as I wrap this up.
Yeah, sounds good.
Right, thank you. 1 second. All right, and that was our conversation with Lew Dixon. And again, we did actually go really long. It's showing about an hour and a half total time here for me. So that was a really long time. So I really do appreciate Lew taking that extra time with us. Learned a ton of stuff. This really was geared towards the student pilots, as well as the CFIs, future CFIs in the future. That was more for me probably than it was anybody of you. But definitely for the student pilots. So hopefully that helped. Lew kind of mentioned it before. The YouTube thing for us is really pretty new. We've been doing this for about a year. So it does really help. Go hit subscribe on Lew's channel if you liked, and hit the likes too. This whole YouTube algorithm thing, that's why you hear people say all the time, like and subscribe, like and subscribe. It's so freaking ridiculous. We hate saying it. Every single person on YouTube hates saying like and subscribe. But that is the only way that other people get to find these videos. So if you did enjoy this content, you want to see more, I got to do it. The YouTube thing, like and subscribe. So with that, we will see you next time, and hope you all have a great day. We'll see you soon. Bye. Hey, I hope you've enjoyed that video. If you did, please do me a favor, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you want to see more content. up here on the left-hand side, you're going to see another video from our this playlist. And if you click down here, you're going to see another video on our channel. Hope you guys all have a great day. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.